So you have received your board and you have the battery outside of your board. Now, this we're referring to the 1100 or the, or accurately, 1184 watt-hour battery, the larger battery that you have. The battery is shipped outside of the board or shipped separately. One, because of regulatory problems with shipping batteries, and two, because we want to reduce the weight of the board so that if it does get tossed around by FedEx, by DHL, that it, the inertia with the battery is going to be a lot greater, higher likelihood of causing damage versus no battery is a bit lighter, easier to handle, less likely to be damaged. So you've got your battery now. Let's get the orientation set up before we start to install it. On my right, you have the contactor or the relay. Don't use a metal thing to short these two, right? They will spark, it will turn the board on. So don't short these two things. If you do, look, it's going to spark, not a big deal, but it will scare you. On my left is the motherboard. So contactor right, motherboard left. In front of you, you will see the cable troughs or the cable holders, so to speak. And you are going to have this cable running loose. This cable is for the power to the front two motor controllers, right? So you want to get rid of that. On some boards, you will also have a power cable down here. Now, in this particular board, it's not there, but you will get power cable down here for the power switch, in which case you just want to tuck that power cable underneath these two rib nuts. So if there's an excess cable here, just tuck it in under there so that you keep that cable in the corner. Second thing, just get all the loose wiring out of the way. As you're putting in the battery, you don't want to have the battery catching on these wires. So it's better just to move them out of the way ahead of time. This particular cable is the antenna or the antenna extension for the motherboard. Again, keep this out of the way. We like to just put it through one of these holes, right, and it's tucked away. When you're installing the battery, orientate it. You have a camel hump on one side and a flat surface on the other side. This camel hump is basically the battery management system or the BMS. We want this flat edge to be against the cable trough, the cable holder, and the camel hump is going to butt up against this side of the box. So we take this, the two leads from the battery is on your right because they have to connect to the big plugs on the contactor. And we simply place this down, making sure not to pinch any cables whilst you're doing so. And you just push this down. There we go. It's going to be a pretty tight fit. It is a big battery, it barely fits. I mean, we want to maximize the battery usage inside the box. But all going well, you should have this battery just level or slightly under the battery box lip. Now that the battery is in, we want to connect up the battery female leads, XT90 connectors, to the ones connected already to the contactor. Now, it doesn't matter which female goes into which male, as long as they go in the right way. You can see the shape of the housing. They can only go in one way, so you can't really make a mistake, but just take note of it. Which connector goes into which really depends on the cabling layout and how nicely you can tidy away the cables. It doesn't matter if this goes to here or here, and likewise this one. So in this case, I'm going to connect one here and tuck it away underneath, and the other one I'll connect here, and I'll tuck that away under here. Not every single board will have the same layout. You may not have your connector positioned here or here because there are slight length discrepancies between the battery and between the various boards. So sometimes you might find one here, one sits comfortably here, sometimes both can sit over here. So you just use common sense. And what you don't want to do is pull very hard or have the connectors in a constant state of tension. You can bend the cables. They are silicon, so they're flexible, but as long as they can sit comfortably within that space, tucked away, that's fine. Next, we will have our power cables for the front two motor controllers. We will run this in this little trough that we have created down here. So you just tuck the cable away underneath those rivets. They're there for a purpose. And now that sits in very nicely. And you connect the power connectors like so. Now, this one for this side's motor controller is going to be, pretty much in compression. So you don't need to do anything with that in particular. This side, because it is a bit further away, this connector may have a tendency to pull apart. So we have provided you with a zip tie that you simply tie up between the two connectors. Smaller fingers does make the job easier. Right, there you have it. So now this won't come undone. You can tuck everything away under here. So that is the procedure of the overall battery installation. Now, before we finish, just one more, or two more things I should say. One is, now we get this antenna extension out. We are going to run the cable we can just smooth this out. We'll run the cable around all the other cables. And then we run this up into the middle of the deck. And then using a very simple bit of masking tape, just tape that down. The purpose of this is to have the signal boosted because your feet will be standing over both of the board. So your feet technically is standing over the actual antenna. So we extend the antenna to the middle where your feet are not. And that will just help to strengthen the signal as you're riding. The final thing you want to do before you close the deck is to pair your controllers. Now, sometimes the controller will come already paired, sometimes not. It depends on if we're taking the controller off the shelf, etc. So to pair the controller, just to very quickly go through this, you turn this on, go to menu, go to the controller menu, you cycle to pairing with this button. You enter pairing by pressing the trigger to accelerate. You will see it says waiting for pairing. Now, you turn the board on, new board paired, as you can see, and you press the brake to exit back to the home menu. And once you get there, you'll hear a click, which is basically the relay engaging. There it is. So now, everything is good to go. Thanks for listening.